Hi there, and welcome to the Markets UK podcast, giving you 15 minutes of politics, culture, economics, finance, and today, film. Yes, today I thought I'd lighten the mood slightly and talk about the film career of Danny Dyer. Now, you might say that this is an inappropriate subject for a finance-based podcast, but I disagree. There is a finance story at the bottom of all of this. You're just going to have to bear with me for a moment. So this week, the Ray Cooney farce, Run for Your Wife, featuring an improbable pairing of Danny Dyer and June Whitfield. And if you're not from the UK and you're listening to this in any other corner of the world, you don't need to know who these people are. Anyway, this film earned the dubious distinction of being the least successful and probably the worst British film in history. Taking less than £700 at the box office in its opening 48 hours, the film was shelved. A rule of thumb obviously being that if your film is less successful in 2 days than a teenager employed to push trolleys around Morrison's car park is in a month, it's probably best to write the film off. The odd thing is, however, this. Movies such as Run for Your Wife are two a penny. There are loads of them. They're constantly being made, and they never make any money. I know a couple of directors who are constantly working and earning a decent money and churning these things out. Anyone who, at the behest of a young niece, has been forced to sit through the S Club 7 movie, or who's watched even the trailer for the Tamara Drew flick, will know how low Britain can sink on occasion. If you don't believe it's as bad as I'm saying, do the following right now. Google these words: Gordon Ramsay, Dougray Scott, Love's Kitchen, trailer. Go on, do it now. Stop the podcast now, go and do it. Okay, you're back. Right, you're visibly shaken, I can tell. You've seen a trailer for a film. What you've seen is actually real. They've actually made it. They've actually tried to put it in cinemas. And yes, you're right, it does feature Sherry Trifle as the central plot device. Someone, somewhere, actually profited handsomely from that film. But I'll explain the mechanics of the scam in a moment. Now, a few years ago, a friend and I found ourselves both retraining. I was retraining as a teacher, she was retraining as a nurse. We were working part-time to sustain ourselves and at loose ends for significant portions of the week. Cardiff Cineworld became our saviour, especially with the as many films as you can watch for £30 a month deal. A deal that now, sadly, I don't have the time to take full advantage of anymore. Once we'd seen half a dozen movies that month, everything else, by my logic, was free. And the moment I believed I wasn't paying anymore, all critical judgment went out the window. I watched anything, from the truly great to the unfathomably awful. I'd just like to point out here at the time I was working as a film studies lecturer with the University of Wales, and I should have known better. But instead, I ploughed headlong into a twilight world of films that narrowly avoided going straight to DVD. There should be a new category of film called almost straight to DVD, somehow managed for a split second to make it into the theatre before being asked to leave by an attendant for upsetting the audience. I noticed too that many of these awful, terrible films were British. There were so many, in fact, that my friend and I began to wonder how it was that they made it to screen in the first place. We wondered how these badly scripted, poorly executed, destined to flop movies made it through what is surely a rigorous sifting process. And when the truth emerged, the answer to so many questions, it shone a light into the darkest recesses of the industry. British film tends to bump along at a low ebb. It has brief moments of glory such as Lawrence of Arabia, Get Carter, or The King's Speech. But in order to marvel at these classics, we have to mentally erase Robin Asquith's Confessions of a Window Cleaner and The Sex Lives of the Potato Men. Before Star Wars was filmed at Elstree Studios, it was the scene for some of the saddest and most cringeworthy offerings from the already fairly cringeworthy Carry On franchise. Despite the natural tendency of British film to churn out its fair share of rubbish, and if America is a model for the rest of the world, all film industries probably churn out 10 duds for one gem, It seems now that there is a financial incentive in producing painful, unwatchable, nightmarish cinema. The City of London and the predators of global finance, not content with wrecking the British economy, have contributed to the wrecking of British culture too, and the government have helped them by allowing tax loopholes in the film industry to exist. Last year, the Eclipse 35 Film Investment Partnership was ruled against at a tax tribunal, and along with Sir Alex Ferguson and a series of high-profile footballers, over 300 executives from the world's biggest banks and investment houses were exposed. Simply invest £150,000 in a movie, using the current system of tax breaks that I hope the Inland Revenue are starting now to wind up, and it will generate £1 million of tax relief. Even if it doesn't make a penny at the box office, risking £150,000 for such a large amount of tax avoidance makes perfect commercial sense. The investors aren't necessarily the most discerning types, and they will doubtless never go and see a film with Danny Dyer in. Even if they paid for it, all they're concerned with is limiting the amount of tax they pay. This flow of money into the industry, liberated from the need to be spent on anything good, helps to finance a secret underground of terrible writers, talentless directors, and actors haunted by a sense of desperation. The fact that deregulated scamonomics has now upset the delicate and none too healthy to start with ecosystem of the British film industry is deeply depressing. And it's also a clue as to how far tax-dodging investment wheezers have polluted all aspects of British life. Investing for the future doesn't and shouldn't work like this. Any investment that is solely designed to dodge tax and ignores the quality or real value of the product that is being invested in should rightly be treated with great suspicion. We at Markets UK wouldn't try to convince you to buy a timeshare in Chechnya, for example, even if it was 100% tax efficient. And we certainly aren't going to try to convince you to invest in the sequel to Love, Honour and Obey. We do believe that investing in film can be tax efficient, but we also believe it should be profitable and the films invested in should be successes. So if you would like to see more of our film investment opportunities, go to our site now. The address is www.markets-uk.com, and we promise real money invested in real film projects will help to bring the scourge of the terrible Brit flick to an end once and for all. Thanks for listening. This is Nick Shapley. This is the Markets UK podcast, and tune in next time for some more advice, insights, invective and wit.